Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the Telehead Audiobook channel, where stories come to life through the magic of sound. I am your host, Telehead, and I'm here to guide you through a world of imagination. Hawthorne crossed over and ended up in a saintly monastery full of beautiful women. Here, he met intellectual and gentle Sister Heidi, petite and aloof Sister Yuta, knowledgeable and gentle Sister Butterfly, and Sister Celine, who had a leader's temperament, maturity, and steadiness. But having cleared the pure love route in the game Witch Monastery, he knew very well that each of them was a terrifying monster that devoured people without blinking an eye. So, sit back, relax, and let the stories unfold. Let's embark on this adventure together.
Chapter 31, Secret Exposed. Then, the butterfly saw the two of them leave together, and then come back together. She saw the two of them walk into the kitchen together, and even Heidi fed the man. She even saw two people return to the bedroom, and then clearly heard the sound of gasping and splashing water inside. Fortunately, the butterfly has been alive for over 2,000 years, so she has seen a lot and even encountered ones made with fish. That's why she didn't react with astonishment and anger like Yuta did. However, even so, this shocked her tremendously, and a strong sense of confusion arose in her mind. How can this man look like an ordinary person? What is special about him? With Heidi's pride, how could she treat him like this? Combining with yesterday, she found that Heidi had unexpectedly failed to sense the arrival of the witch's night, and a sinister cloud hung over her head. So now, having confirmed that Heidi had already left, Hawthorne was alone in the study, and she rushed in eagerly. She wants to study humans carefully. Pulling back the perspective to the present, when he saw her coming in, Hawthorne instinctively stood up and put on a respectful and restrained expression, saying to the witch in front of him, "Hello, this nun, miss. What can I do for you? Is there something you need?" The butterfly did not speak immediately, but only stared into his eyes with a pair of pitch-black pupils. Her pitch-black nun's hat and a few strands of hair moved on their own, as if a ghost had entered through the door. The obscure magical fluctuations reverberated in the air and instantly enveloped Hawthorne's mind. Unlike Yuta, who uses almost all of her magical abilities to assist her in a perfect surprise attack, so when she is alone with Hawthorne, she can only communicate with him through simple words. And the butterfly, she almost understands all the spells of the lower realms. Even though her strength has been greatly diminished due to several episodes of amnesia, she has no problem dealing with Hawthorne now. So, under her magic, Hawthorne's gaze gradually became trance-like, forgetting everything else and only feeling that the girl with black hair and black pupils in front of him was the person closest to him. He wanted to confide all his innermost thoughts to her. Fascinate humans. One ring spell, the effect is to make humanoid creatures, such as humans, elves, dwarves, orcs, etc., see you as a familiar and trustworthy person, and then talk to you about anything. With his current abilities, it is simply impossible for him to resist the butterfly's spell. And once under this spell, all the secrets in his heart will be completely exposed. "What is your name?" Butterfly asked softly, as she gently moved her feet under her nun's robe, while shifting around in this immaculate study. "Hawthorne," he answered truthfully. "Did you clean this study?" "Yes." "Why are you in the study?" "I want to study here and learn magic." The butterfly turned its head and saw the books on his desk, sensing the faint magical fluctuations on them. It immediately realized that all of these were valuable magical artifacts. "How did those magic books come about?" she quickly asked. "Heidi bought it for me." The butterfly's beautiful eyebrows slightly furrowed, feeling a bit confused. "Heidi, isn't this food a little too good? She borrowed money from me. Could it be that it was all for this? Is it Heidi who asked you to study here?" she continued to ask. "No, it's something I want to learn myself." Hawthorne shook his head, denying. "Oh." The butterfly raised an eyebrow. "She agreed to teach you just like that? She listens to you like that?" Hawthorne's expression wavered for a moment, and this question struck a nerve, making him somewhat resistant. And upon seeing this, the butterfly furrowed its brows slightly, silently lamenting how its magical powers had regressed so severely. Reluctantly, she widened her eyes, causing the skin on the outer sides of her eyes to wriggle for a moment, and then suddenly 2 more eyes opened. Her true form is a giant brain covered in tentacles at the bottom, with no eyes at all. She uses magic to perceive everything around her, and her eyes are just a disguise and a tool to cast spells that manipulate the mind. 4 eyes stared simultaneously, and the doubled magic swept out. As a result, Hawthorne's struggle was forcefully suppressed by this spell. Yes, he nodded gently, she will listen to me. The butterfly's gaze became increasingly mysterious. What do you think? What is the relationship between the two of you? Hawthorne straightened his chest, his face filled with pride. I am her master, she is my maid. Immediately, the witch's beautiful eyes widened, but after a moment, she couldn't help it and burst into laughter, covering her mouth and stomach, bending over and laughing uncontrollably. Oh my. So that's how it is, Heidi is playing a master-servant game with him. I really don't know when this little witch developed such a sexual interest. Haha, master, haha. The butterfly laughed incessantly, even a tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. And in response, Hawthorne's gaze appeared slightly puzzled. What are you laughing at? I'm telling the truth, you can go ask her if you don't believe me, see if she recognizes me as her owner. Ah, yes, I believe you now. Butterfly wiped away her tears and stood up straight again. She has already remembered it. Heidi is even more proficient in illusion and hypnosis than herself. She likes to use illusions to bring people to the brink of madness and then suddenly suck away a part of their soul. It seems that asking this man won't yield any meaningful conversation. His mind has been made foolish by Heidi, and he still believes himself to be her master. It's ridiculous. So, let me ask you. She suddenly became mischievous, walked over, and cupped his face with her hands. As a devout nun, why did Heidi consider you her master? In the invisible places of Hawthorne, her fingers had quietly returned to their original form. Those slender, whip-like appendages brushed against his facial skin, entwined around his head, and even 2 of them slowly burrowed into his ears. This is her usual action, especially when eating. She can now exert force at any time, and then those 2 tentacles can pierce his ears, directly entering his mind, and start reading the memories of the other party. And in response to this, Hawthorne felt no danger at all and answered very honestly, because she was a witch, and then I purified her. Chapter 32, On the Verge of Crisis. In an instant, the butterfly's face froze for a moment, then its pupils contracted to the size of a pinhole. What did you say? With her anger, those soft tentacles instantly turned into steel needles, piercing his skin and leaving dozens of red wounds on his face. And his ear canal was instantly pierced. Crimson blood flowed from his face and ears. The intense pain almost brought him back to consciousness, but the overwhelming power of the butterfly still suppressed his awareness. Fortunately, just at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from behind. Sister, what are you doing here? The butterfly suddenly turned its head back, with a stern gaze towards the rear. Heidi. But then, thinking about the presence of a stranger next to her, she silently recited a spell, sleeping spell, and Hawthorne suddenly felt a strong wave of drowsiness. He sat back in his chair and then slumped onto the table, falling into a deep sleep. At the door, Heidi, upon seeing this, immediately frowned and spoke with great dissatisfaction. My sister, how could you mess with my food? She was really nervous. She just sensed that the individual's power on the other end of the contract suddenly increased and took away some of her magic power. It should be that Hawthorne's strength suddenly improved, so she hurried over to take a look. However, what she didn't expect was that when she arrived, she would witness such a scene. So, she quickly took the initiative and questioned the butterfly's motives. After doing all this, the butterfly turned back to look at Heidi, completely calm, with a stern tone. I also want to ask you, Heidi, how could you tell this human about us being witches? The latter, upon hearing these words, immediately had a drastic change in facial expression. However, looking at the stern gaze of Butterfly, she decided to soften up first and smooth things over. Sorry, sister, it was my carelessness that caused me to let slip. Her brain was spinning rapidly, searching for a reason to evade the question. I had planned to kill him too, but not now. As for the reason, it's because... The butterfly looked at her coldly, while Heidi pursed her lips and her tone became resolute again. It's just... I still need to use him. The butterfly opened its mouth slightly, feeling that its anger had subsided by half. Are you saying, the night of the witch? Heidi's heart still hung in suspense, and she hesitated before responding. You know, this time I couldn't believe that I didn't notice the arrival of the witch's night. I am also very anxious, so I have no choice but to try every possible method. Speaking like this, she gradually entered a state and began launching an attack with her words. And he is a strategy one unexpectedly found. I'm not sure if it will work, but at least I'll give it a try. My dear older sister, you are the sister I trust the most. I am willing to share this kind of thing with you. I have never mentioned a word to any of my other sisters. You have experienced the most witching nights, so you should understand the confusion and fear in my heart right now, right? Looking at the always confident Heidi, at this moment she unexpectedly showed a pleading expression towards herself. The butterfly empathized with her instantly, and her heart softened. However, at this moment, her mouth remained firm. But you shouldn't have told him that we are all witches. If something unexpected happens, the entire convent will be in trouble. Heidi's eyes lit up, knowing that she had accepted this explanation, and she immediately felt relieved. Sister, my dear sister, you can rest assured. My magic is still stable. This person is actually insane, and he has always been under the control of my illusion. He will definitely not reveal our secret. You can rest assured. I assure you that all my energy has been focused on him during these days, so there won't be any problems. She spoke so earnestly and continuously, and finally, the tone of the butterfly also relaxed. It's good as long as you have a sense of propriety, Heidi. I hope that this time, on the night of the witches, you will be able to pass through safely. Heidi nodded repeatedly. Yes, you too. Oh, don't worry, after the night of the witch, I will definitely come to find you first and bring you back to the monastery, then help you recall some of your past memories. Hawthorne had talked to her, so she knew what the butterfly was most worried about, which was going crazy and losing control due to amnesia. As long as she could guarantee this matter, she would definitely be able to move the witch. Ah, Heidi, my dear sister. Sure enough, upon hearing this, Butterfly smiled again and nodded at her. Well then, I thank you in advance. After saying this, the butterfly bid farewell to Heidi and then turned around and left. Seeing her walk away, Heidi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then she hurriedly rushed into the study and gently shook Hawthorne's body, saying, Master, wake up, Master. His originally handsome face now looks extremely ferocious. Although the wounds have scabbed over, the bloodstains are still shocking. His ears are also filled with coagulated blood, almost blocking them. This miserable appearance made Heidi feel her heart hesitating. Her nun's hat fell off, her long hair returned to its original form, and turned into long, slender, ink-green tentacles. After a flurry of searching on the desk, she finally found Hawthorne's, the scarlet letter. Then, she infused her own magic into it, and the healing spell of the ring was cast on him as if it were free. Fortunately, the power of magic is still very reliable. After a few spells, the scabs on his face slowly fell off, revealing the newly healed delicate skin underneath. The blockage in his ears dried up into powder, and the damaged ear canal and eardrum returned to their original state. Fortunately, this treatment was timely enough that it didn't leave any scars or permanent hearing damage. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been something that could be resolved with a basic healing technique. It would have required an advanced restoration technique. Hawthorne slowly woke up, with a lingering pain in his ears and mind. Seeing Heidi beside him, tears streaming down her face, he looked at her with great confusion. Heidi, I remember the butterfly seemed to have come just now. Has she left now? Saying that, he also glanced outside, but didn't find anything. Heidi sighed and said slowly, Diana just hypnotized the master, and then she asked a lot of our secrets. Hawthorne was taken aback. What did she ask? What did I say? She already knows that you know I am a witch, Heidi sighed, but I made her believe that I turned you into a madman with my illusions, so everything is under my control and I didn't actually harm you. But even so, things are probably still not that optimistic. At most, we can only delay the danger until after this night of the witch. Chapter 33, Surging Undercurrents. Hawthorne clenched his teeth in anger upon hearing it. This guy. I never expected him to pull off something like this. Saying this, his mind was filled with countless thoughts. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that Butterfly was a huge threat. Heidi, let me ask you, if you join forces with Yuta, do you have the confidence to subdue Butterfly? Now, he must start considering purging the memory witch as soon as possible. The Butterfly has now almost touched his most core secret, so for her own safety, she must be dealt with as soon as possible. However, he is also aware that the strength of the Butterfly is unpredictable, and there is a probability of failure if he takes action now. So, for safety's sake, it's better to wait until after the Witch's Night and subdue Yuta yourself before taking action. Heidi was taken aback for a moment, then secretly pondered, as for this matter, I'm not quite sure about the strength of Dai. When she was at her strongest, it is not impossible for her to defeat me and Yuta together. But in recent years, in terms of the state she has shown, Master, if I can successfully get through this Witch's Night, then I have confidence that I can take her down, together with Yuta. Upon hearing this, Hawthorne finally breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. So, next, it is to ensure that no other unexpected things happen in the remaining 9 days. My own heart, it can't withstand another scare like this. On the other hand, after leaving the study, the Butterfly slowly wriggled and steadily moved forward in the monastery garden. However, her mood was not peaceful, with worry written on her face, still very concerned about Heidi's current condition. Can we expect anything from her, looking like that? In case something major happens during the Witch's Night this time. She was very worried, and just then, a cold voice sounded behind her. Butterfly? You look troubled, has something happened? The Butterfly lifted its head slightly and then saw a delicate and slender figure suddenly appear in front of her. It is Yuta. When he saw her, the Butterfly's eyes lit up. Yes, my sister. I won't hide it from you, I'm very worried about Heidi's current condition. Upon hearing this, Yuta raised an eyebrow and said, Oh? You noticed too? She recently got herself a human with white hair as a pet, but I feel like she's been indulging this pet a bit too much. Although she was very unhappy with Hawthorne, she hesitated for a moment and did not say the sentence. She even did that kind of thing with her pet. After all, firstly she only caught a whiff of the scent and didn't catch her in the act. Secondly, in her mind, this was a very shameful thing, so she didn't want to betray Heidi's secret and offend this powerful witch. Hearing her say this, the Butterfly's eyes also lit up. You noticed too? Actually, I have the exact same feeling. Heidi is really good to him. She even borrowed money from me to buy him a few magic books and let him study magic in the study. Although she was very unhappy with the situation just now, after hesitating for a moment, the Butterfly did not say the words. She even told him that she is a witch. First, she didn't want to completely betray Heidi and offend another powerful witch. Second, it was obvious that the human was still completely under Heidi's control. He even believed that he had purified Heidi and become her master. Ridiculous, does he think he is some chosen one of the gods of order, purifying and being a master? Oh, what foolish and pathetic creatures humans are. So, in the Butterfly's view, this matter is not so serious. Just saying these things should be enough to resonate with Yuta. Sure enough, as she spoke, a murderous intent flickered in Yuta's eyes. Is that so? Heidi really spoils her pet too much. To be honest, yeah, I've wanted to kill that human a long time ago. Keeping him is definitely a trouble, but Heidi has never allowed it. The Butterfly's eyes became brighter, and her heart filled with joy. In an instant, her rich experience helped her organize her words. Oh, dear Yuta, I completely agree with your judgment. That person must be killed, otherwise, he will surely become a threat to our monastery. After a pause, she continued, I support you personally taking care of killing him, but, Yuta, the timing cannot be now. The killing intent in Yuta's eyes gradually fades away, and confusion fills her beautiful purple eyes. Why? The corners of the Butterfly's mouth slightly curved, then it skillfully enticed. Just think, the Witch's Night is just around the corner. If you act now and kill Heidi's favorite pet, what if she holds a grudge, loses control, and is determined to seek revenge against you? How will you spend this Witch's Night then? Yuta, my dear sister, I know everyone's safety is important, but you also need to consider yourself. Yuta pondered for a moment, then spoke with a somewhat reluctant tone. So, should I wait until the night of the witch is over before taking action? The butterfly nodded repeatedly. This is the most suitable way. When the time comes, I will also act with you. After a pause, she continued, but I'm afraid that after the night of the witch, I will lose this memory. So when that time comes, I will still need you to find me and take care of me, help me recover, okay? Yao Hui regained his senses and looked into her sincere black eyes, nodding earnestly. I promise you, I will definitely do it. Upon hearing this, the butterfly immediately breathed a sigh of relief. In addition to Celine, the two most powerful witches in the monastery have agreed to help me. This witch's night should be almost certain. The members of the Shanasar Guild are planning to smuggle an extremely valuable magical artifact through the port in Nangang district. Next to the huge floor-to-ceiling window, bathed in warm sunlight, Gail Potel, a high-ranking executive of Amazon Fisheries Company, was sitting with his legs crossed, without any grace. He frowned and looked at the long-eared male elf with blonde hair and blue eyes, who was sitting on the opposite sofa with a smile on his face. Gail Porter is a typical Amazon woman, with black-red naturally curly long hair, a wild and beautiful face, brown reflective skin, and a fit and impressive figure. She is now wearing only a red leather armor that protects her chest and a very short blue shorts, as if she never feels cold. There is no excess fat on her exposed abdomen and thighs. The lines of her abs and straight thighs show a sense of wild power, making people want to conquer this lioness by pressing her down or be conquered by her riding on top. At this moment, her thick, heavy black eyebrows were tightly furrowed, and her blue eyes were fixed on the young man in front of her. Mr. Shinga, why did you come to tell me this news? According to her understanding, this kind of intelligence, Santalin would usually go to find smugglers and threaten them to buy the intelligence, which is equivalent to blocking the information. However, they came with intelligence to find themselves. This means that they had a falling out with Shanasa's people. Across from her sat a male golden elf, none other than Yagura's employer, Davio Starsun, a senior agent of the Suntarlan Society. He has blonde hair and blue eyes, handsome appearance, tight skin, and looks very young. However, the age of elves cannot be judged by appearance. According to Potter's understanding, this Sadalan high-level special agent is at least over 200 years old. And facing her question, the golden elf maintained her smile and elegantly said, "As you have witnessed, Shanasar's people are arrogant and disrespectful, breaking the rules of the intelligence market for many years. Therefore, after our discussion, we unanimously agreed that this intelligence should fall into the hands of the true owner of the South Harbor District." He complimented, although the Amazon Fisheries Company is far from actually controlling the entire South Port area, this sentence still made Porter very pleased. However, even so, this experienced female executive has no intention of hastily buying this information. "Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Shinga, but I'm afraid I will have to disappoint you. Every year, hundreds or even thousands of smuggled goods are transported from Nangang District. We are just a small company and do not have the capability to handle so many things. So, I think you might as well sell this valuable information to the district government. I believe the security team will definitely handle this matter properly." Being able to become a senior manager at Amazon Fisheries Company, Porter's skills are not limited to just fighting. Negotiation, bargaining, and manipulating the other party are also her specialties. After all, anyone who has lived in the Nangang district for a while knows that what the district government says is almost equivalent to nonsense. Across the street, the golden elf also understood that she was just bargaining, so her smile remained unchanged, as if she had already figured her out. "Mrs. Porter is right, but what if I say that the person responsible for this smuggling is Kentz?" Kentz, one of the senior management of the Shanasar Guild, holds the position of Guild Commander. He is the overall person in charge of this smuggling mission. Including the one-eyed dragon in the warehouse and the bald guy who was beaten up by Hawthorne, they are all his subordinates. And upon hearing this name, it was visibly apparent that the Amazon female executive's pupils contracted. "Is it him?" Her chest heaved, and there was a deep-seated hatred between the two sides. But then, she took a breath and said lightly, "I admire you, Mr. Shinga. You have indeed done your homework before coming. But as a senior management of the company, I will not bring my personal grievances into my work, do you understand? The golden fairy nodded slightly, her smile remaining unchanged. I understand, madam, you truly are selfless. But, what if I were to tell you that the ship used for this smuggling operation is actually owned by the Amazon Fisheries Company? There is a middle-level executive within your company who is betraying the interests of the company and assisting the Shanasa Guild. As a senior executive, you should definitely not turn a blind eye to such a matter, right? Potter's eyes lit up as soon as he heard the words. To be honest, what he just said is actually just a trivial matter. Where can you find company executives who are not corrupt and do not engage in nepotism? Even in a small company with only about 10 people, there will still be some petty cash involved when going out for procurement. Not to mention, in a large company like Amazon Fisheries, where there are thousands of employees, it is normal for middle-level managers to have personal interests and take advantage of the company's assets for their own benefit. But in name, this kind of behavior still needs to be severely cracked down upon. Since that's the case, we have no choice but to tighten our management. Immediately, the female executive of Amazon Fisheries Company's face turned serious and resolute. Internal corruption has always been a thorn in the Queen's side, and I must take strong measures against it. But deep down, she is actually silently grateful to the other person for giving her the opportunity to use the company's power to seek revenge. Chapter 34. The Night of the Witch arrives. 10 days, or rather 9 days, quietly passed. In the remaining 9 days, there were no further unexpected incidents in the monastery. The nuns were busy with preparations for the Night of the Witches and had no time to spare. Therefore, Hawthorne, who was filled with fear and apprehension, ultimately passed the remaining time without any surprises or dangers. During this period, he did not idle either, continuing to diligently study his magic book, striving to learn a few more spells before the Night of the Witches arrived, adding an extra layer of security for himself. And in this process, he discovered another wonderful use of his magical invocation. Rune Guardian's Eye, you can understand any written language. Originally, he thought that this would allow him to no longer need to learn more languages and be able to directly understand the writing of all races, whether it be common elven languages or rare dragon languages, giant languages, or even the primordial language. He wouldn't need to learn anymore, he could understand them directly. After all, in the game, this magic invocation is its purpose. However, he never expected that this understanding all languages would actually include the specialized languages of various academic disciplines in this world. Now, he can understand all the abbreviations, symbols, proper nouns, and so on in these 5 magic books at a glance, and he can learn them all at once. The difficulties that were once caused by the lack of basic knowledge due to the lack of communication between the two worlds no longer exist. This time, his learning efficiency instantly increased by more than double. With less than 8 days left, he learned 2 more magic tricks and 2 one-ring spells. In 1 week's time, learn 4 spells, and they are completely different from the spells that ordinary mages use, recording the spells in their own spell book, and only being able to cast spells by flipping through the book on the battlefield. Without the book, they can only cast 3 or 2 spells. He truly imprinted these spells in his mind, without needing to read the book to cast them. Moreover, it is self-study. This learning ability, even if placed in the St. Hywin Magic University, can be considered an absolute top student. After all, in this world, in this era, basic education is like this. The self-learning ability of ordinary people naturally cannot compare to that of people in previous modern societies. Of course, we cannot overlook the contribution of the study and the convenience brought by his Rune Guardian's Eye magical invocation. The new magic trick that Hawthorne learned is called Light Magic, which is purely used for illumination. And another one is Electric Claw Technique, a damaging spell that has the advantage of not consuming mana, simple casting, almost instant, and even if it doesn't electrocute the enemy, it can paralyze their entire body, rendering them powerless in battle. The drawback is that this spell must be touched by hand to the enemy in order to conduct a strong electric current to them, which is very limiting. Hawthorne knows that he is not good at close combat, so he wouldn't normally use this spell. He He only uses it as a last resort when he is being approached by an enemy and it is inconvenient to use magic explosions. And those two new spells are, respectively, the ones he had been longing for before, the spell, False Life, that can protect himself. Although it cannot be cast on oneself an unlimited number of times without consumption, this spell lasts for a duration of 1 hour and provides him with very strong protection. At least the next time he goes out, he will have more confidence. In addition to this, another spell he learned is a wide-range crowd control spell called Sleep Spell. This spell is a godsend in the early stages, especially in the slums of Nangang District, where it's a complete massacre. The reason behind it is that the terrain here is often very narrow, making it easy for many people to crowd together, facilitating the maximum effectiveness of this spell. And these gangsters, no matter how much blood they have on their hands, are ultimately only surviving by sheer determination and luck. They have never received any formal systematic training, so they generally have no professional ranks and their resistance to magic is practically zero. So during battles, it's very easy for a large group of enemies to rush up, and then the player uses the sleep spell, causing them all to immediately fall down. And in the remaining time, players can leisurely defeat these sleeping enemies one by one. Although the spell becomes less effective as players level up, at this moment, it is undoubtedly a formidable weapon against enemies. With these two new spells, his confidence instantly grew stronger for tonight's operation. 10 more minutes to go. Looking at the countdown in the system, Hawthorne turned his head and glanced at the sun that had not yet set in the west. He felt every inch of his muscles trembling with excitement. Which is night. Although it is called night, the actual start time does not necessarily have to be when it is truly night. Even before it gets dark, the moon has already appeared on the eastern horizon, but most people may not notice or see it. Only a few people know this secret. After all, no one in the world can predict the arrival of the witch's night as accurately to the second as Hawthorne. However, for the sake of caution, he ultimately did not leave now. Although the witches had already left the monastery and Heidi had kissed him goodbye early in the morning to go to the deep sea, the several previous accidents had almost left him with a psychological shadow. Therefore, he must wait until the twin moons align and the barrier between worlds becomes weak, when the monsters can no longer control themselves, before going out to act. Tonight's matter is related to the life and death of the future, and I absolutely cannot allow any mistakes. He even stayed up until midnight last night and slept all day today, doing nothing, just to conserve his energy and prepare for tonight's action. So, even though he was excited and anxious in his heart, he still suppressed his emotions and waited. Time passed by minute, and finally, the timer on the system interface reset to 0. The east, pure white bright moon and blue dark moon appear simultaneously on the edge of the sky, and both are in the form of a full moon. The uneven waves caused by celestial movements have reached the barrier of the world. Suddenly, terrifying magical powers from countless other worlds surged and rushed towards the material world. In the darkness, the masterminds behind a great conspiracy burst into gleeful laughter. But Hawthorne didn't notice any of this. All he could see was that the text on the system interface had changed, from a countdown that had started to a countdown that was ending. And the timer on top also went from 0 to 13 hours, and then started counting down 1 second at a time. Started. So now, let's go. He then jumped off the bed, pushed open the door, and walked out of the monastery alone. Yuta, you are mine. At the same time, at the headquarters of Amazon Fisheries Company, Gale looked at the row of women warriors in front of her, ready to go, with a serious expression. Sisters, do you still remember our action plan for tonight? Remember, the female warriors shouted in unison, kill. Very good. Gale nodded approvingly. Let's go and make those bastards from the Shanasar Guild pay the price in blood. In the dark corner, two figures wearing black leather coats and round top hats suddenly spread their arms. Ah, I can feel it, that power. Very well, now the show is about to begin. Nangang District, Port. Although it is not yet autumn, there is already a coolness by the seaside in the evening. The salty wind blows in from the sea, effortlessly taking away the body temperature of people. The one-eyed dragon, wearing a thick black coat, stood on the cobblestones of the harbor, gazing into the distance at the sea. Behind him, a few subordinates pushed a wooden four-wheeled cart, waiting silently. The employer requires covert action, so their main force is hidden in the dark. If not attacked, they will definitely not make any big movements. At this moment, there are not many people at the port. The City Hall of Le Port has already issued a warning, stating that tonight is the night of the double moon. Therefore, the fishermen have all returned home early, even though it is still early evening and there is not a single person to be seen by the port. Apart from the sound of the distant waves, there is almost no other noise to be heard on this coastline. Occasionally, the cries of a few seabirds can be heard, making it unexpectedly quiet for a moment. Of course, Cyclops is very satisfied with this. This environment is the best, with the fewest variables, and therefore the least likely to have accidents. Now, we are just waiting for the arrival of the Amazon Fisheries Company's ship at the port. The Shaw NASA Guild also has allies in the Amazon Fisheries Company, which is why they are able to smuggle goods using their boats. In fact, all the major powers in the port of Libel are the same. We scratch each other's backs and profit together, so everyone is always fighting but never completely destroying each other. In his impatient wait, after about 10 more minutes, a large fishing boat slowly appeared in the distance and then docked. The one-eyed dragon's expression immediately brightened, but he was not in a hurry. He knew that such a ship entering the harbor would require some procedures, so he could only be patient and continue to wait. The workers at the bow of the ship began to unload the cargo. Box after box of heavily fishy-smelling sea fish were moved down for inspection by the port workers. Of course, this procedure is just for show. No one in the Nangang district dares to actually inspect the Amazon people's ship. This is also the main reason why Cyclops chose to use their ships for smuggling. Soon, before the earth was completely dark, this formalistic inspection finally ended. A slightly slender Amazon woman walked over and threw a flirtatious glance at the one-eyed dragon, saying, "Come here." The one-eyed dragon immediately approached and embraced the woman in front of him, saying, "Oh, my dear, I've missed you so much." This is his lover, and this kind of relationship is very rare. The Amazon tribe does not have males. Their way of reproduction is that when they reach a certain age, they will seek men from other tribes to collect seeds, and the children born from this will be kept by the daughters, while the boys are sent back to their fathers. In everything, there are always exceptions, and people always have emotions. There are always those capable men who can capture the heart of an Amazon woman and form a long-lasting romantic relationship. "Damn it, look at you, you big bear." The Amazon woman rolled her eyes, but still gave him a gentle kiss on his lips, then said, "Come on, the cargo container number 73 is over there." The one-eyed dragon called his little brothers and together they quickly caught up, soon seeing the large cargo box filled with sea fish. Because of drifting at sea for several days and lacking the ability to freeze and preserve, and also lacking the conditions for pickling on the ship, this box of sea fish is now emitting a faint smell of decay. "Move it up," Cyclops said, so the four little brothers stepped forward, enduring the foul smell, grimacing, grabbing the four corners of the box, exerting their strength together, and placed it on their own cart. "So, now we can leave. Next, as long as we are prepared for any possible robberies along the way, everything will be fine." However, Commander Kentz has brought in a large number of thugs, totaling over 200 people, so this time it is definitely foolproof. No, can things go so smoothly? Suddenly, the Cyclops was startled. "Take out all the fish," he said, "check to see if the goods are still there." Chapter 35, The Lost Phantom Magician Armguard. Upon hearing this, immediately, the petite Amazon woman's expression showed some dissatisfaction. "Are you doubting me? The things you want are placed inside by me personally." The one-eyed dragon hurriedly comforted, "There's nothing like that, it's just that without seeing it with my own eyes, my heart can never be at peace." "Darling, you don't want me to be scared and worried all the way, do you?" The Amazon woman pouted, still a little unhappy. "Go ahead and flip it, just don't complain about the smell." The one-eyed dragon commanded, "Turn." After a pause, he continued, "Thank you all for your hard work. After we go back, I invite everyone to the Muse District to have a great time." Muse District, a concentrated area of the urban entertainment industry. In the early years, the main buildings in this district were various grand theaters and concert halls, pursuing high art. However, now, with the entry of major foreign conglomerates, it has been covered by various casinos, brothels, and so on. The Amazon woman pinched the Cyclops' waist, and the latter just chuckled and did not resist. Several thugs' eyes lit up, and then they stepped forward and flipped out a few fish from the top of the box. Suddenly, a strong stench of corruption rolled out, almost causing those few people to faint directly. And the one-eyed dragon just furrowed his brow and continued to urge, "Turn." There was no way, those few people had to grit their teeth and continue to mess with these stinky fish. However, even after they turned everything upside down, several thugs were overwhelmed by the smell and couldn't find anything. In an instant, the Amazon woman's face changed. "Impossible. I personally put the things in there. They must be in this box. Unless..." Thinking of that possibility, her face instantly turned pale. Only her superior, the captain of this ship, can secretly adjust the cargo containers beyond her authority. The one-eyed dragon's face changed, then his eyes scanned the entire harbor, his gaze fierce, his brain working rapidly. "Sure. Here's the translation." Sure enough, something unexpected happened. The things were actually stolen on the ship. "Anna, in these past few days, has anyone taken a survival boat to leave?" he hurriedly asked, feeling his palms sweaty. In response, the Amazonian woman shook her head repeatedly and said, "I can assure you, absolutely not." "No, that's good. That thief couldn't have stolen things on the boat and then jumped into the sea to escape, so the goods definitely haven't gone far. It must have just been swapped with another location, actually still in the harbor, inside another box." "Commander, notice," he suddenly roared in a low voice, "we are sealing off the harbor, no one is allowed to leave." However, as soon as he finished speaking, a female voice suddenly came from behind. "The Shanasar Guild is so arrogant now, they even dare to detain our Amazonian ships?" The one-eyed dragon's face changed dramatically, and he immediately turned his head to see a tall figure wearing a crude leather chest armor and shorts. The woman had a small round shield strapped to her left arm and was holding a spear in her right hand. She was accompanied by a group of fully armed Amazonian female warriors, who were striding towards them with great speed. And based on the emblem on her breastplate, he had already deduced that the other party was actually a senior executive of the Amazon Fisheries Company. The person who arrived is none other than Gail Porter, a female executive from Amazon Fisheries Company. After completing the transaction with the Suntarlan, she immediately used the communication stone to notify the captain on this ship. Converging his scattered thoughts, Gale then gazed ahead and exclaimed, "Bring them all under my control, not a single member of the Shan-Nasa Guild should be let go." Behind her, hundreds of fully armed Amazonian female warriors approached, surrounding Cyclops and his subordinates. With wide-open eyes filled with killing intent, they stared at this group of people, making them completely unable to move. The one-eyed dragon immediately felt a deep resentment in his heart. This must be a premeditated trap. Otherwise, how could a high-ranking executive coincidentally appear at the harbor with so many people? However, he still had no way to resist. The way Amazon women train their offspring is extremely cruel, with a very high mortality rate. But the result of doing so is that every survivor will have at least a level 1 warrior profession after reaching adulthood. The combat power of professionals is absolutely overwhelming for ordinary people. Under the command of the one-eyed dragon, there are so many subordinates, but only 6 of them have reached the level of evaluation as first-class warriors. Moreover, the tall woman across from me, who has been able to become a senior executive, possesses an immeasurable strength. Unable to resist, can only wait for Commander Kent's to come and rescue. He prayed anxiously, while across from him, Gale continued to urge loudly, "Let our workers move faster and transport the goods to our cold storage." "Understood." An Amazon warrior responded and then began urging the male laborers on the ship to unload the cargo. They were referred to as laborers, but in reality, they were slaves. In the Amazon tribe, this type of physically demanding work was always done by captured men from other tribes. However, the port of Liberdade did not recognize slavery, so the Amazon women simply gave them a different name. Boxes of sea fish were being sent out, and the one-eyed dragon was sweating anxiously. Fortunately, in the next moment, a loud voice came from afar, sounding like a heavenly melody to him. "Amazonian, why are you holding our people? Here it comes." Amazon's female executive turned her head and immediately saw her lifelong sworn enemy, Kens, leading a group of hundreds of people behind him, carrying steel knives and holding crossbows, all walking towards this side. He still looks the same, tall and muscular, with a pale complexion and a thick circle of beard. Just by looking at him, Gale feels a strong urge to kill, wishing to immediately pounce on him and stab through his chest. "Do you really think that your people dare to seize our ship and not take the Amazon women seriously?" She sneered. "Sisters, don't worry about it. Keep going and deliver the goods to the cold storage." Kent's eyes flickered, unaware of the grudge between him and the woman before him. It turns out that the Amazon warrior he had killed years ago was her own mother. He was still pondering the vocabulary for negotiation when suddenly, next to him, a thug shouted loudly, "That person wants to escape." Everyone turned their heads and saw a burly worker wearing a thick windproof coat, looking suspiciously as if he was about to leave with something bulging in his pockets. Seeing them looking over, he immediately spread his legs and ran towards the direction of the slums. Not only him, but also several other directions, some port duty officers, security guards, and laborers on the Amazon ship, a total of 4 or 5 people, all held onto something and ran away. Immediately, Commander Kent became extremely anxious, split into 2 squads and chased after them. Ahead, the Amazon female executive raised an eyebrow and said, "You want to leave? Dream on. Kent, spare my life."